The lead generation model. What I think is really funny about this is 80+% of the 2,000 homes that our team will sell this year came from 5 of these pieces of pie. Our sphere and our agent sphere, open houses, prospecting, internet leads, and leads from our listings. And then every agent or every team or every geography always has an other one that might be builders or lots of agent referrals, or they teach classes, or they do geographic farming, those types of things. But you can build a really big business off of just these 5 pieces of pie. We've proven it in luxury markets and in low price markets and in big cities and in small cities. So today what we're going to do is we're going to talk through converting business from our sphere, open houses, prospecting, internet leads. We're going to role play a little bit and talk about some scripts, and we're going to answer lots of your questions. So feel free to throw it in there and communicate with your questions, and we'll try to make sure we get them all answered. Well, the way that we think about technology, this is what we call the Brivity roadmap, is every business owner has a job, and their job is to get their content and messaging in front of people, whether they're on a social site or a search engine, behind their mailbox, behind a phone number, behind a text, behind an email, so that we can get those individuals to take action and visit one of the capture tools. The capture tools are IDX websites, which are focused really on buyers searching for homes, and seller websites, which are about seeing what their home is worth and downloading a marketing plan, that kind of stuff. Home valuations, which is an unbranded seller lead generator. So it's not about you, the agent. It's about them getting there, raise their hand that they're interested in seeing what their home is worth. Text call capture, so we capture their phone numbers, mobile search apps, open house apps. Anyway, those are all the ways the leads can be captured, and they all get funneled into a single CRM. And then they get nurtured through listing alerts and market reports until it gets closed. That's truly what the Brivity platform does. It eliminated probably 17 different accounts that we were paying for, so that we could focus on just having a few pieces of software and a few places to log in and to work. If you end up deciding to sign up, or you want a private demo, just throw into the chat your phone number and your name, location, and we'll set you up for a private demo, and we'll talk about some specials that we're going to do for you. But we want to get back on the content. So lead conversion. In order for your business to grow, you must feed your business with leads. And here's a problem that some people run into, is they think that their sphere and their database truly stays the same size, and it doesn't. Your database is either growing or it's declining, because somebody's always moving away, or ends up getting their real estate license, or ends up being friends with another realtor, or ends up hating you, or gets out of owning real estate, and your database just gets smaller and smaller and smaller unless you're feeding it so consistently. But having a database and having a whole bunch of leads doesn't matter. I've seen agents that have 10,000 leads in their IDX site, or 1,000 or 5,000, but they don't get any closings from it. And really, it's because the most important thing that we have to do is convert those leads. So Bob, talk to us about our goals and lead conversion.
So I mean, the first thing that we want to identify, what's their motivation level, right? And on your team, you guys just put them in kind of an A, B, C category, and you guys, I think each team's going to have a little slightly different kind of determination of what those things are. But we're first just, what's their motivation, right? And then we're looking, if we get a conversation going with them, and I might even say the first thing we're trying to do is just start a conversation, right? And that maybe gets into building rapport, but let's get that conversation started. Once we've got it started, then we can identify their motivation levels, right? Which allows us to tag them, to put them on a different plan potentially. Then we're going to try to gather additional contact information, right? So if we just have an email address, we're going to ask them, for a phone number, right? If we just have a cell phone number, we're going to maybe ask them for their home address and an email so that we can set them up on market reports. Like, we're just going to kind of be picking at additional pieces of information. But at the end of the day, right, converting that person into an appointment, or potentially getting a referral from them. But I think first off, like a referral would be something from your sphere potentially, but you know, for a lead, right, we want an appointment with that person. We want a buyer consult. We want a listing appointment. That's really what, on your team anyway, you guys are angling for, that appointment.
Yeah, you know, and sometimes getting that appointment takes a while because you haven't built enough rapport for these individuals to trust you, or all you got is an email address that they don't really check that often. So you're trying to get a phone number, and part of the conversion process is about getting them to give you that next piece of information, or to give you their name, or give you their address. And we'll talk about how to do that. But remember, every communication that we have should accomplish these goals. Are we adding information to the database in the CRM based on that conversation, that email, or that text? Are we building a strong enough relationship that they're going to trust us and choose us to do business and refer us to friends? And then lastly is to get an appointment with them. And Bob said that really well. So we bring in leads into a single CRM through a variety of ways. The APIs with Zillow, for instance, they automatically come in from all the different types of Brivity products, but also we can bring in leads through Zapier or email parsing, which basically means any lead, any source, we can get it to automatically come into your CRM. And that's important because then the routing software allows you to route by source, day, location, agent, price, round robin, by a specific tag or intent, like buy, sell, recruit. And based on all that information, it decides with you who to give that lead to. And then it notifies the agent by text and by email, and then the auto action plan is applied. And your guys are gonna get sick of seeing that bottom square, because that's the key to success in conversion, is making sure that certain things are always done on every lead, and auto plans will do that for you. It'll send out a text automatically within 5 seconds of a lead coming in. It'll send an email automatically. It'll schedule tasks for you or different people in your team to follow up, and it makes sure that every lead gets treated exactly the same. And you can transition from new lead plans to the hot lead plan, to the nurture plan, or the cold lead plan, and you can make those things automatically kind of move through this process, so your lead conversion process actually becomes automated. Now,
as you go to these next slides, Ben, we're going to talk about, you know, how many leads out of like 100, right, should I be able to convert? One of the challenges when we talk about that is if you're not systematized in how you approach your leads, you don't have any way to set a baseline to understand, like, if we did 1 in 100, is that good or bad? Because if this lead gets one attempt, and this lead gets 5, and this lead gets 3, right, we can't set a baseline. And so that the auto plans is really the first piece of that, kind of putting a process and making sure that every lead gets the same type of response.
Well, you know, you could your agents kind of do that anyway. They get a lead sent to them, and then they text them from their phone, or they email them from their Gmail. But then you have no history of all the communications with that lead. And even the agent that has the lead doesn't have that history. They're going to forget what they said to them, or what those leads said back to them, or what they learned about them. You need to keep all information in that vault called your CRM, because that's what's going to allow this conversion to happen. And Bob and I, we think that if you were to get 100 leads, and I'm going to put this across all different sources, and you had those leads all starting today, that in the first 6 months you should get 1 to 2 closings from those initial 100 leads. And then in the next 6 months, you should get another 1 to 2 closings from that initial 100 leads. And then in the next 12 months, so the next year, you should get at least another closing from those initial 100 leads. And if you did that math, it would say, you know, roughly what we're looking for is as low as a 3% conversion rate over 2 years to as high as a 5% conversion rate. And I've seen agents do much better than that. And you see some lead sources work better than others, but most of it has to do with what you and your agents focus on. I had an agent the other day that said, you know, all my business comes from my sphere. And I said, yeah, I know, that's obvious. And they said, why? And I said, well, because that's what you work. That's who you call. right? That's who you focus on. That's what you're doing, networking. That's what you spend your time. And I sit down with the other agent and said, all my business comes from open houses. Well, of course, that's all you do. You do open houses all the time, right? All my business comes from these internet leads. Well, of course, that's all you do. You don't work your sphere. You don't do open houses. One of the number one things that can happen that'll really screw up your real estate team is giving your agents too many leads. Bob, it's like you and me having to do yard work, and we got a wheelbarrow, and we got to haul these rocks. So we're trying to think, well, how do I cut these trips in half? I'm kind of fat and lazy. Like what we got to do right now is like we'll just pile like the Leaning Tower of Pisa right on in that wheelbarrow, and then we start pushing it. And then all of a sudden we get a freaking hernia and we fall to the ground, and then the wheelbarrow dumps over, and then we got to start over again. Well, leads.
We had this last night, right? We had an agent or somebody who was trying to clear out a bunch of overdue tasks because they're essentially just piling leads on their agents, and they tipped the wheelbarrow over. They undid a bunch of stuff they didn't want to do, and so I mean it's a problem, right?
Yeah,
you
want to double your conversion, take away half the leads from each team member, because focus matters. And sometimes agents tend to focus on all leads equally, as opposed to using data about those leads to convert them at a higher level. We actually believe that.
Sorry, go ahead.
We just believe that every agent should get between 20 and 30 leads a month, and if you're getting more than that, your wheelbarrow is going to be overfilled, because at the end of the year you're going to have 360 plus whatever open house, sphere, and everything else. It's just more than any one person can manage. So keeping them focused on a smaller, a more hot lead bucket can really help. Go ahead, Bob.
One of the things that this slide, for me, what it conjures up in my head is, if I do well, I'm going to have 95 out of 100 people tell me no, piss off, ignore me, or whatever, right? And so I think there's like a certain mindset. I can't remember who it is that somebody talks about, like getting all those no. I mean, Gary Keller talks about it, but getting all those no's right before I get that yes. And if you go into it with that mindset that says I'm going to have 95 people tell me no out of these 100, right? I just know every time I go through 100, I'm going to have 5 yeses, but I'm going to have 95 no's. And you really got to embrace those no's, because if you don't, those will beat you up and wear you out. And we've seen lots of agents. I mean, we had them in our brokerage, Ben. We have them on our teams, right? Who they get beat up by those no's, and they don't then fully commit to finding those yeses in there. So I mean, that's the thing that really pops out here to me, is like, be prepared for those no's, right? Like, those are good because they get you closer to that yes.
Yeah, in fact, I used to take 50 pennies, Bob, and I put them in my pocket, or I put them on my desk. And every time I got a no, I just move that penny over to the other side, and I just keep moving it and moving it. And then I knew when I got all the no pennies moved over to the right, I probably would have gotten an appointment that day. And I just knew that no was the pathway to my yes. So leads don't get closed because we don't respond fast enough. We stop communicating. We're not doing it for the long term. We don't look for buy signs in their activities or sell signs. We send them spam. Like, we're sending them open house invites, and they freaking live in another state. They're thinking about relocating. They can't come to your open house. We just send junk that they don't care about, so they unsubscribe. And when they unsubscribe, they can't get the goods, which is your listing alerts and your market reports.
We know this to be a fact too, Ben. You and I do, because we are probably in. I mean, I'd put us up against anybody in the country in terms of how many agent databases we are in, right? And every single day we're getting stuff from agents that's like, yeah, I'm not going to attend your open house in Maryland. Like, I live in Seattle, right? I mean,
yeah. And all you want to do is unsubscribe from them and tell them they're an idiot, right? Number 5, we can't build rapport on the phone. These people just feel like we're trying to sell them something, whereas we need to switch our mindset. And how is it on every phone call and every text and every email that I can hand them $100 bill, that they feel like they received something of value? And then lastly, they focus on the wrong sources. So let's keep going. I was going to bring up a stat, but I'm not gonna. So why your team doesn't convert? Number 1, we're saying the wrong things. We're not asking the right questions or using the right scripts. And even if your team is practicing scripts, this will be something for you to think about. Stop practicing so many. Just practice 1 line or 2 lines and then come up with 4 or 5 other ones, because you should be able to have 3 to 5 scripts in your pocket that you can use on every lead, no matter the source, no matter the intent. And I'll give you some examples as we role play through today. The agents just aren't doing the activities. So inside Brivity, we built these dashboards so that you could see how many text your agents were sending, how many emails, how many calls, what the response time was, how many leads they got, what source or what status all those leads are in, what source they came from. We believe the lack of accounting breeds the lack of accountability. If the numbers aren't present, you should take those dashboards, put them on a frickin' TV, and hang them in your team space and sort by the lowest activity person, because that person will probably directly correlate to the lowest producer on your team.
We talk, like in our business, in the Brivity business, you know, we get salespeople that join, and sometimes they don't have success early on. And obviously in real estate, that's a thing, right? Somebody joins your team and they're not having success early on, but we don't, you know, we don't judge them based on that lack of success early on. The first thing we go back to after that is, what is their effort, right? What is the activities that they're putting in every day? So are they getting their 100 calls? Or on your real estate team, are they getting their 150 dials every day? Are they doing their 2 open houses every week, right? And so we can't just judge them based on their output. We got to roll it back and say, well, what are the expectations of them? What is the activity that they're doing?
You know, if people are coachable, we can teach them the skills and the scripts to be successful. But if they aren't doing the activity, there's no script for lazy, right? There's no software for lazy. If they don't do the activity, the job, then, you know, their lack of success is on them, not on you. Another thing is that agents get afraid of the phone. They won't call a lead or look up the phone number and call a valuation lead. All they'll do is email with those people, and people want to communicate in the way they want to communicate, not the way you want to, which might be text or a Facebook message or LinkedIn or email or pop by or call, right? There are a variety of choices. And then us as the people paying for the leads, if you're a team leader, run a real estate team or paying for them yourself, you know, we aren't in there inspecting what we expect, that these agents are following up with that process. Or it could just be flat out you hired the wrong people, and that's an unfortunate thing, because you can't motivate the unmotivated, and you can't hold accountable unaccountable people. You'd be better off spending your time finding an accountable, motivated individual than you would be trying to push a gigantic turd up a hill. It's just going to end up in a crappy situation. If you guys understand what I mean. Now, Bob, talk to us about response time, because this blew me away the first time I heard the MIT study.
I mean, you guys can read it right there. You're 5 times more likely to contact a lead by responding in 5 minutes versus 10 minutes. Okay, so waiting and we talk, you know, the odds of contacting a lead go up, you know, 100 times if you get them right away versus waiting 30 minutes. We talk, Ben, in your business and about the $10,000 cheeseburger, right? This idea that a lead comes in and I'm eating lunch, right? And through the Brivity system, I'm going to get a text message every time a lead comes in. So it gets routed to me. It's a lead from our IDX website, comes to me. I'm sitting at lunch and I've got my cheeseburger and I have a decision to make, right? I can set the cheeseburger down right now and call. Okay. And if I do it inside of 5 minutes, right, I'm 5 times more likely than if I wait 10 minutes. And if I let it go 30 minutes because I want to finish my cheeseburger, I'm 100 times less likely to get a hold of that person. I mean, what do we call it? A $10,000 cheeseburger. That's what it is every single time you decide to take a bite instead of setting the phone down and going after that lead, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you check out my body type, like, I'm not a guy that puts down a cheeseburger for very many things, but I'll put down a cheeseburger to convert a lead, because that pays a lot. I can buy a lot of cheeseburgers if I convert that one deal right there. You know, if you waited just 30 minutes to get back to those people, instead of calling them right away, you could be as much as 100 times less likely to get a hold of them. So even if you're out showings, just go to your clients and say, hey, excuse me 1 second, I want to tell these people that I'm busy and I'm working with you, and I'll call them back later. And just take a video on your phone. Hey, it's Ben. Thanks for registering on my website. I wanted to get back to you. Unfortunately, I'm showing homes for the next hour or so. I'll give you a call afterwards. But if you have any questions, just respond back to this text. See you later. And then you send it off. right? And then they get that video of you, they see that you're a real person, they see it's fast, they don't then go to the next agent on the list to try to find somebody else to answer their question. You got it, and it takes 15 seconds. Every client will give you 15 seconds to send another customer a lead. They're going to sit back and they're probably going to be super impressed. They're going to be saying, whoa, this person, this agent really communicates, really communicates. So let's talk about the steps of lead conversion. Number one, lead validation. This is the first thing you do, right? You visually check the contact info. Is there any typos in the email address? If so, fix it. Is there a typo in the phone number? Fix it. Is their name in there correctly? Great. Google the name, the email address, the phone number, or use other tools to look it up. Check the location, like where are they looking for homes at? Look at the IDX activity. Look and see if they're came from some new marketing activity you did and what the source was. Research them in the MLS if they have an address to see if their home's already marketed or on the market. And then do the rest of this activity. And once you've done that, you're going to know a lot more about this this person, this lead. We call this lead DNA, and it's our focus for the next 12 months is building out massive intelligence around what these leads are doing. But here are some tools that you guys can use to research leads at a higher level. LinkedIn, Google, Facebook, People Finders, PIPL, and there's lots of other choices that you guys can go and get information about each one of these people, old phone numbers they used to use, other email addresses. I found that LinkedIn and Facebook and those sources are some of the best ways to get a hold of somebody, and often their email address is on there, and sometimes even their phone number.
If your name's like, if your lead's name is Bob Stewart, you're not going to have as good of a time on Facebook. But I was in an account yesterday, and I just looked at their top 3 leads. Grant, our lead guy, and I were talking about this particular account. He was saying that the person they were saying, oh, these leads are weak. I mean, they were literally saying the thing we're talking about today. And I had gone in there and I looked up 3 of the leads, and it was the last 3. And 2 of those leads, I was with 100% certainty in my head anyway, able to find them on Facebook and able to get a bunch of information about them. Now, they had pretty unique names, like, Josiah Ubin, right? Josiah is our lead designer. If he signed up, that's a real unique name. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be able to track down Josiah. And so a lot of the leads you get just literally from Facebook and like the uniqueness of their name, you can find them. And so for those 2 leads, there was all kinds of information publicly available on their Facebook page that would have made for really great conversation starters and ability for me to build more rapport with them when I was able to track them down and get them to communicate with me.
The difference really, Bob, is between how you and I look at a lead and how another agent looks at a lead. They look at a lead as work, and I look at it as a $10,000 paycheck, right? And I believe that every lead in my database, even if it's an address only, is somebody raising their hand saying, I at least have some questions about real estate. And if I answer that question fluidly and I build rapport, they're going to do business with me, right?
I can remember, like, we've been doing this a long time. We started generating internet leads in 2001. And I can remember in those early days, back then, you didn't have Facebook, you didn't have all this stuff, right? Even Google was in its infancy. But I can remember like looking at leads and seeing their email address. And if I could identify where they work, like sometimes I could even go to a website back in those days and I could figure out like, this person has this job at this company. Like, so, I mean, today it's really over the top in terms of like what you can learn about somebody if you really set out to do it.
Yeah, I had a lead that I converted once, and myself, and they registered, and all I had was an email address, and I didn't have a good name. So I just took that email address and I posted it into Google. And then what was funny is it wasn't Craigslist, but it was like a Craigslist. A page came up with somebody, and these people were selling this mobile poultry processing unit. Basically, it kills a whole bunch of chickens, right? And it had their name in there and their phone number, and they said, here, call, or here's our names or email. So then I had all their information, and I was able to just take that phone number and call them because I took the extra 10 seconds to Google that lead and figure out, is there something else out there? Well, the next thing that we got to do when we're researching is let's look at what properties they viewed and what properties they favorited. And there's different types of IDX activity that you can look at. Like in our tool, you can sort by price or square footage or bedrooms or bath or zip codes, areas, and that'll give you an idea of where they're looking and what they want to look at, so that you can make what we call smart calls instead of dumb calls. A dumb call says, hey Bob, I saw that you just registered on my website. I was wondering if there's anything that I can do for you. And Bob's gonna say, no, I'm good, man, thanks. Yeah, instead of saying, Bob, hey Ben, this is Ben Kinney, XYZ Realty. You were just on my website and you looked at a property at 13806 63rd Ave in Puyallup, and I want you to know I've already been inside that one. It's an incredible property. I have to go back out there this week and take some pictures. You want to go out with me and look inside it? And I also noticed that there's some other properties that are in the same exact price range, same exact bedrooms, same exact bathrooms, blah blah blah, because I looked at the activity. We can look at 2 or 3 if you want, Bob. And it's a smart call, and he's like, oh yeah, I was just looking on that. That makes sense. So IDX activity. Oh, by the way, this is why CRMs like competitors who are just sell a basic CRM is not good for converting leads. If you have buyer leads, they need to be on listing alerts. And you can set up listing alerts in your IDX site, but if you funnel all your leads into a different CRM, you don't get to see the activity. You don't get to see what properties they favorited and what properties they viewed and how many times they've looked at that property and all this other data. So your agents are making dumb calls because you just put it in a CRM because you think all CRMs are CRMs, but they're not. In order to convert leads, you got to have visibility into that lead's DNA, what properties they're looking at, did they open your market report, etc. Just the thought. So now we validated the lead, we understand who it is, right? We know some information about it. Now it's time to convert this stuff. So this is the process that we require every member of our team to follow. And if they don't do it, we can take that lead away or turn them off of leads for a period of time or forever, because this is how I know that every lead is getting worked. And that includes things like change the status, update contact info, attempt to contact, set drip, blah, blah, blah. We're going to talk about these individually. So the first thing we're going to do, Bob, is change the status. You got any thoughts or advice on this?
This is one of the, Ben, you know me. This is one of these like makes me sick things, because if we have about, I think it's like 41% of the leads across the entire Brivity ecosystem are in new status. Like 41% of the stuff we have in there is in a new status, which indicates to me, like, on your team, that would indicate what? I've not done anything with this lead. And on your team, if the lead's in new status the day after they get it, they lose the lead because they haven't done anything with it. So what you guys do is once we start working with it, it moves from new to unqualified. This person right now, it's not that they're unqualified to buy, it's that we haven't qualified them. They're unqualified right now. We don't know, right? Because we haven't connected with them, we haven't communicated with them, but we've started working them. So they're no longer new, they're now unqualified. Watch is going to be somebody that I get on the phone, they're a little bit, a little bit evasive, they're not ready, they don't want to talk, I really can't drill down on what their motivation is or what their timeline is, but there's somebody that I've communicated with, okay? I'm going to make them a watch, and I'm always going to set a follow-up.
But what Bob says is absolutely true. What I believe is that if a lead is in the new status, that means your agents haven't worked it. Don't allow leads to stay in the new status. They're either going to be unqualified, I haven't got a hold of them. People I've talked to that aren't buying right away, so I'm watching them. People that have interest in it and they're kind of ready to start working with me, nurture. And then the hot ones, these are people that are willing to meet with me now, I've already met with. And then all the rest of them are how you get these people out of there: past clients, inactives, archives, and trash. As a team leader, you need to make sure that you're watching the archive and the trash, because a lot of times agents trash good leads. And we've sold lots of $1 million plus homes from leads that agents have trashed and archived or put away before. So let's keep going. So inside the CRM, remember, you're nurturing and you're building value in your database. You're going to update all the contact info, link to their Facebook and Twitters if you want, or you can have VA do those types of things, and add all the information that you learned from talking to them or from doing your research. Now we're going to attempt to make contact. make a phone call right away. If they don't answer, send a text right after. Hey, I just tried to reach you. This is why I was calling, because they probably don't know who you are. Then send an email. Hey, I just called you and I sent you a text message. This is why I was reaching out. And if that doesn't work, you can send a video email or send a Facebook chat or LinkedIn message or write them a handwritten note, or just go show up on their door and knock. And we do that for valuation leads all the time when they don't give us contact info. They gave us their address. Just go knock on the door and talk to them about it. It's not super complicated, but we got to attempt more than just email them, or we got to attempt more than just calling them. So when we're making contact, a large percentage of the time, leads will only provide one form of contact information, an email or a phone number. And what we want to do is we want to use well-crafted scripts and emails to gather the information, like mailing, address, phone numbers, that kind of stuff. And you might do that because you have a phone number that quickly lead or something. You text them, say, hey, I was trying to email you something about the property you asked about, but I don't have your email. And then they respond back, and then you add the email. Great, what was your first name? And then you get that. What was your last name? Great, awesome. I'll send this over right away. And you're continuing to add more information to that database. And remember that these are just leads until you make contact, and you can nurture that. Once you set an appointment for a buyer consult, showing, listing pres, then you really have a client. And always be closing to turn them into a client instead of just having leads, which is getting in front of them. To do a buyer consult, to look at one house, just to meet, offer to go to them, you want to really become that client, and that requires two-way communication and some trust. Bob, are you back audio with us? You look
I think I'm back. You know what? They should make a name for that. So I have Comcast, right? So that was like a Comcast or something. I don't know. I think I'm back. Am I good?
Bob, talk about listing alerts and what makes our listing alerts a little different. Our customers probably don't even know.
So well, I'll get right to that. We include calls to action to try to get your buyer leads to identify themselves as potential sellers. So it was 6 or 8 months ago, you came to us and said, let's revamp our listing alert. Let's do something different. And so we're signed up on all the different platforms. We started looking at these things, like, what are people doing? What are people doing? Is there something? And it's almost one of those, like, what? We haven't been doing this for how long? Like, how it's so obvious. But so we embed these calls to action that says, hey, here's your 6 properties that match the criteria of the listing alert I set you up on. But oh, by the way, do you have a house to sell? We've identified, Ben, and I think this is groundbreaking stuff. Everybody lives somewhere, right?
Yeah.
And most of these people are going to buy something. They probably have to sell the place that they're in. Now, you would coach them some different way, right? Never sell real estate. But the reality is most people are going to sell the place they live in before they buy that next one. So listing alerts, we found over 17 years of doing this for buyers, there's nothing better you can send them than the properties that are coming onto the market, right? It seems real obvious, but when we go into a lot of Brivity accounts, what we see is, I've got 600 Brivity IDX leads and I've got 60 listing alerts set up. So on the Ben Kinney teams and across all your expansion teams, it's a rule. If a lead comes in from our website, or really a buyer lead from any source, could be Zillow, could be Realtor.com, it doesn't matter. We're going to set them up on a listing alert. Okay, so if we know enough information about them to specialize that alert, so we've got some IDX activity, we know what property they've been looking at on Zillow or whatever, we're going to craft that alert around that property or that set of properties they viewed on our website. But sometimes you don't know much, right? Sometimes you'll even get leads on your website that never looked at actual properties. They come in and they do some searches and stuff, but they never go in and look at doesn't matter, right? We took Jason Secor, good friend of ours down in Alabama. We moved a bunch of leads from an old system. He had leads from everywhere, Zillow, Realtor, all these places. He had 2,200 of them that he'd never set up on a search, and he didn't know anything about them. So we just set them up on a generic listing alert for Birmingham, Alabama, 3 bedrooms, 2 bath, between 200 and 350,000. Go. He's had hundreds of people come back to his website in the last couple of months since we've done this, who were dead leads in his world otherwise, simply because we said, hey, here's a generic listing alert. Now, some of those people go, who the hell are you? Stop sending me stuff. A lot of them unsubscribe, but a bunch of them say, hey, we're actually not looking in Birmingham. We're looking in Tuscaloosa. I don't know Alabama, but or we can't afford up to 350. We can only afford to 250, right? And so they start to adjust those things. They start to open communication with what for them for a long time were dead leads. I mean, basically they'd forgotten about them in their other system.
I would say Bob, what makes our listing alerts unique is on every single email that we send your clients up to 2 times a day, we embed the see what your home is worth ad, so they can go there and you turn a buyer lead into a seller lead, and you pointed that out well. One thing I wanted to point out about how you should use listing alerts is listing alerts job is not to email them the perfect property so nothing else has to be done. It's to give them all properties so that they get excited enough to click on those first 3 and it says here there's 17 more here, to get them back on your website. Because once they're on your website, you can see what properties they clicked on, you can see their favorites. So the goal of listing alerts is to drive them to your website, because if you don't do that, you aren't going to know what those leads are doing and how to convert them. Secondarily, the tighter you make that criteria, the less likely those leads are to get an email that day. And I just set the expectation up with the people to say, hey, I know that you really only want a house that has a mother-in-law apartment, but sometimes agents forget to mark that it does, or sometimes they describe it as something different. What I want to do is I'm going to send you all properties in your price range, and you and we can work together and filter through and find the right one, because it may not have a mother-in-law, but it could have 2 extra bedrooms and a bathroom in the basement, or something that could be like that. And when you narrow that criteria, it stops listing alerts from going out. It's not doing the job of the agent, which is to find the exact properties to go look at that day. It's getting them engaged enough that they raise their hand and say, I'm no longer a lead, come show me that property.
I mean, that's a big deal. I think a lot of people get stuck on that, Ben. They go, oh, the MLS has this one field and we don't have it on the list, and so they don't do it. Like, I think that's a really big deal. Like, think about this as a way to get them engaged with you, not as a way to find the exact property they're looking for. It's really smart.
Yeah, you know, if somebody came in and they clicked on a property that was 400,000, I'd send them all properties from 300 to 550,000 and no other criteria, just so they could start saying, hey, can you not send me homes with 2 bedrooms or less? Great, I'll adjust the alert. But it starts the conversation and gives them something to talk to you about, and it still sends them enough properties they can see them every day. Now, every lead in your system that's not a active buyer or is an active buyer and they have a home to sell, could be your active listings, could be your past clients. You want to set them up on market reports. So Bob and I, we remove all the sharp objects from our office so we don't cut ourselves, because when we're talking to an agent that says, yeah, I'm having a hard time getting success with technology, and we look in the system, they don't have anybody on listing alerts, they don't have their past clients on market reports, they don't got their seller leads on market reports, they don't got their current listings on market reports. All they basically have is a gigantic bucket that they threw business cards in, right? The bucket with business cards is not going to produce any business. You've got to send them items of value, and market reports and listing alerts are really that. They will do the conversion for you. Once you're done with that, you add notes from the research and schedule your follow-ups. By the way, auto plans will do this for you, because you're going to say, hey, text in 30 seconds, email this in 2 minutes, text in 5 minutes, schedule a task for the agent to call them, schedule a task to do the research, schedule a task to do this, send another text, send another email. And if the person responds back to the text, it's just going to pause that plan for you. So it doesn't matter. And some people are like, well, what if it texts them at 1 a.m.? Well, if they register at 1 a.m., then text them at 1 a.m., right? They're awake. They're not doing nothing, right? You'll find that you get way more people that are happy that you responded quickly than are ever upset about you responding or sending too many things. Keep going. So online lead conversion, and we're talking about the Brivity leads you can buy from us, or you're bringing in your own leads, you're doing your own paid advertising, your Facebook leads, you're getting your Zillow, your Realtor.com, all that kind of stuff. They need to go all into that one bucket so that we can convert internet leads. When a new internet lead comes in, the first thing our team has to do is change the status from new to watch or nurture or whatever, and then research the activity, attempt to make contact with that lead right away, add notes what you did, left message, talk to, no answer, wrong phone number, email bounced, whatever. Modify or set up listing alerts based on your conversation, and if not, you're going to make it vague, and then set a follow-up task when you're going to go back and update it. One of our agents in Everett, who I adore, she said, sometimes I have a conversation with a lead, Bob, and they're really mean to me, and they hang up the phone or whatever. So what I do is I go into the notes, had a great chat with them, follow up with them in the spring, because when I wrote in there, hey, this guy was mean to me, then when I got to that lead next time, I would just skip it, or I wouldn't even attempt, right? But when I lied to myself and I said, hey, motivated person buying in the spring, well, I'll forget because I have so many leads that in the next 3 months, I'm not going to know who I'm calling. They're like, great, this person's all freaking wants to buy. So they call up with this whole new attitude, and they're actually able to convert it. So we talk about scripts for buyers. There isn't a whole lot of scripts that you need. There's only a couple, and I'll give you a couple of examples. Like, hey Bob, thanks for registering on my website. I was calling to follow up with you and see, hey, what are your real estate related plans for the year? Hey Bob, I saw that you registered on my website. People come to my website for one of two reasons. One, they're curious what their home is worth because they're thinking about selling, or two, they're thinking about buying or investing. Which one are you? And then another script might be something like, hey Bob, would you by chance be interested in a good deal? And the reason we say that, because if Bob says no, we know he's an idiot, and we just hang up the phone on him, because nobody that has any sort of brains is going to say no to are you interested in a good deal? No, please send me all the overpriced ones, Bob. And when they say yes, you say great, because we specialize in helping people find properties that might be off market, or foreclosures, or short sales, or motivated sellers, and we're really good at getting you a great deal. Let's get together and we could look at what I consider to be our best buy list, some of the best properties available based on your criteria. When can we get together? And you'll find that those combination of scripts could be used in every conversation together. They could be used multiple times. They could be used on different sources. They all just kind of work. Now, the auto plans, you could set a task up and have the task details be that script, so that when it gets assigned to the agent, they know what to say, right? It does the work for you. That's the point of it. Now home valuation leads, there's two types. There's one where they just give you the address, Bob, where they're just like, hey, they typed in the address and they got to the next place where it's give me your name and email address, and they bounce, right? And a lot of agents are like, those are bad leads. And I would take those leads every single day of the week, because what's happening is the consumers in your area are raising their hand and saying, I'm at least curious about buying, selling, or refinancing. And you know where they freaking live. So if you can go visit them, you can turn that into a super good lead, and it's probably the very first thing that they did in the process, so no other agents are bothering them, right? Get in there first. So when we get a home valuation lead, first thing we do is we check the address. Hey, is it listed? Is it a FSBO? Is it one of our past clients? Is it located in one of our farms, right? Who owns it? What do they owe on it? What's their mortgage information? You can do that through the assessor's pages or other tools. And then we're right away going to attempt to make contact. We're going to use what we call the apology script, and we're going to mail and schedule, mail them something and schedule a time for us to go knock on their door, pop by if we don't get a hold of them. Then we're going to set our next follow-up. Now, that apology script that we talked about is it depends on what we're apologizing for. But one, they didn't give us any contact information. So we go out to their house and we knock on the door and we say, hey, my name is Ben. Somebody had visited one of our websites and put this address in to see what that property is worth. And for whatever reason, it got cut off and I didn't get any contact information. And I was truly afraid that you were going to think that I didn't follow up. So I wanted to make sure that I ran out here and handed you a list of properties that have gone active, pending, and sold to give you a rough idea what's going on in your market and your neighborhood. And since I'm here, let me ask you a question, Bob. Do you have any real estate related plans for the year? See how all these scripts kind of work together? And then the full home valuation lead, we got their contact info and we got their address. And at the end, they get presented with a range of what their home is worth. And I've seen agents all the time. They're like, hey, can we get it so it tells them the exact price? Absolutely. Why don't I send them the exact price? I'll do the listing presentation for you. I'll just have my team market it for you, and then we'll negotiate the deal, and I'll just mail you the commission check. Does that seem like a good deal?
Yeah, I'll take that deal. Sign me up.
Yeah. The other thing that they like to do is they like to email their leads open houses that they aren't hosting. Right, Bob? That's like going to your beautiful bride and saying, hey, I just signed you up for this speed dating event tonight. Go out there and good luck. Hope you find a great one. If not, come back to me. Like, right? You wouldn't send them to your competitor's brokerage, but you do that when you send them out to open houses, right? And if you get in front of one of my agents, they're going to use my open house script, and bam, you ain't got no lead.
Go back for 1 second, Ben. Go back a slide. That last thing, set follow-up tasks. I just want to really drill on this one. I see more Brivity accounts than anybody else in our world, and it's again one of those things that just makes me gut wrenched. Every single time you leave somebody in your database, there should be a follow-up task for the next thing you're going to do with them. And as the business owner, you should be able to go into any lead, any sphere, any prospect, any past client, anybody in your database, and you should be able to see what the next thing that you guys have told yourself to do with that person. And you know, I work with a lot of our teams, and they say, "Oh, I got 1,200 leads. How am I going to get it all in order?" Well, if you had 1,200 leads, like and you were lazy, you could do 10 a day. That's 120 days, and in 4 months, you'd have every single thing would have a task set up, right? You could do 20 a day, and you could cut it down to 2 months, right? You could sit down one day. The team I talked to yesterday was going to have a wine and cheese night. They were all going to sit down, and they were going to go through and get next task set up for everybody, right? So, I mean, it's one of those things where, like, if you don't do it, you don't have a next thing to do with that person, and then the only time you're ever going to follow up with them is if they just dumb luck fall into your lap.
Yep.
And they're going to dumb luck fall into someone else's lap is the reality.
Well, auto plans will solve that for you, because you'll be able to automatically apply tasks to schedule your next follow-ups and what to do on each one of those days. And when I first started, Bob, I was getting leads from kind of a small IDX tool. It didn't have a CRM, but I would know when people registered, and I was giving those leads to my agents. They weren't converting them, and I was able to convert them when I worked them, but it wasn't translating to them. So I did a little bit of research, and the National Association of Realtors said that the average buyer searches for 10 to 14 days prior to selecting an agent when they become serious about buying. So we don't know, first, are they even serious about buying? And then number two, I didn't know if we got those people on day 1 or day 14. So I wrote what was called the 10 days of pain, and a bunch of funny people tried to write the 7 days of other stuff, and the 9 days it was like the 5-minute abs that took over the 6-minute abs, but they missed the point. The point is, in the first 10 days, be aggressive and assertive to find their motivation, build rapport, and schedule an appointment. And that was making sure that our agents followed a certain amount of rules, like emails, be short, concise, always have links to properties or links to a home value website, always ask for an appointment on every conversation. Phone rules, always leave a voicemail. Stand and smile when you're on the phone because it changes your tonality. Match your voice to your audience. So these are rules that we teach our real estate team, and then we give them a process for following and following up with a lead. So 10 days of pain, validate it, make your introductory call. If no answer, leave voicemail. Always ask by first name only. Hey, is Bob there? Yeah, who's this? This is Ben. Like, you don't need to say anything other than this is Ben, right? You just act like you know the guy. Hey, I was trying to get a hold of Bob. Is he around? Right? As opposed to, hi, this is Ben from XYZ Realty. I was calling to reach Bob Smith. Is Bob Smith available today? Right? That doesn't work. Okay. You're going to follow up with your intro email. You're going to mail a note card if it's an address. Got it. You're going to send a text. You're going to go onto the social sites. You're going to do whatever it takes. Now, days 2 through 10, you're going to pick 3 of these things every day to do, except for the one day that you take off, right? But you're going to hit these people every single day for 10 days. You're going to make follow-up calls. You're going to send different types of emails. You're going to message them on social sites. You're going to send text. You're going to send video emails or an image. You're going to go above and beyond to make sure that they know that you're a real person. You're not just a computer. And you're going to pick different templates. One of my favorite new templates, it was stolen, but most good ideas are stolen. It says, hey, I love emailing you. You hate responding. Ben. That's it. And so many people will respond back to that message with, whoa, I didn't know you were a real person. I thought this was automated. Oh, it's okay. It's okay. I got tough feelers, right? And then you start that dialogue, and you guys will be just blown away at how many people respond to that simple one. Now, after the 10 days of paying, we want to.
Can I interject something real quick?
Sure.
You can see, let's back to why you should only have 20 to 30 leads. If you're doing this with every single lead, you can't handle many more than 20 or 30. And when you get more than 20 or 30, what you end up doing is you do day one of the 10 days of paying on all your leads, and you just skip over the top, right? It's impossible to get any depth with these things, which is what you need if you have too many.
Yeah, people say like, hey, my top agent, they're doing 24 deals or 36 or whatever it is, and I usually think, yeah, well, you gave them 1,000 leads this year. They did 36, and that feels hard for you to make an adjustment or to hold them more accountable. But there was probably 150 deals in there you didn't do because those leads weren't getting worked. So don't worry about the 36 you got. Worry about the 150 you didn't get, because you and your team are overwhelmed with the amount of leads. So after the 10 days of paying, it doesn't stop. If you've made contact and communication, you pause the 10 days of paying, whether it's day one or day 10 or 14, right? But after that, you're going to establish that they're either invalid and you're going to delete them, not interested, and you're going to put them in watch or archive. No contact, you're just going to keep on sending them listing alerts and market reports if you can, or you talk to them and you establish their motivation level and their timeline, and you're going to follow up with them accordingly. The purpose of this is that give your agents a plan to convert leads. And Bob, you ever been to CrossFit?
No. You see these arms? There's no CrossFit in these arms, my friend.
I don't.
But I know plenty about it. Our buddy Jonathan's got a CrossFit gym set up in his garage. So yeah.
I don't exactly have a CrossFit body. Who on the call right now goes to CrossFit? Let's see if we can find anybody. Anybody here? Anybody here?
No, that person left, and they're over just doing deadlifts in the corner right now. Just.
So here's the difference. What real estate teams tend to provide is a gym membership. And you walk into the gym membership and you're like, there's a whole bunch of people talking to each other. There's like one guy flexing in the mirror, right? And there's like 200 different machines, and there's the yoga class, but I'm too embarrassed to go in there because I can't even touch my toes, right? So then you like walk around, you lift a couple weights, and then you head out because you don't really know what to do. You're overwhelmed. But a CrossFit gym, hypothetically, never done one, but a CrossFit gym, you walk in and you say, today you're going to do 10 jumping jacks. Then you're going to do 3 pull-ups. You're going to do 4 XYZs. You're going to do sprints here, and you're going to do this. And when you do all that, you're done with your workout. How do you guys as real estate agents turn your real estate business into a CrossFit gym where every day there's a daily workout? When they walk in, you're going to say, hey, here, we're going to send 10 people text, and here's the text. We're going to make 50 calls today, and this is what we're calling about just solds and letting everybody know. Great. And we're going to work our sphere, and this is the sphere invite we're going to do, and we'll know we'll be done when we get through all those different things, and you can high five and you feel great that you have a sense of accomplishment. So turn your real estate business into a CrossFit gym by having plans like auto plans and a lead conversion process that includes the actual activities. Because if you write just work your sphere, that's not going to fly. You got to say, call 10 people in your sphere, say this thing, text 10 people in your sphere, say this, so to speak. Now, leads from listings, we found that some of the best ways to get leads from listings, Bob, is to get rid of the flyer. People grab the flyer and walk away, and they get all the information. And if there is no flyer there and all they have is a for sale sign, they go to Redfin or Zillow, right, looking for a date with another realtor. But when you put the quickly sign out there and you just put it in the ground next to your for sale sign, big 18 by 24, right, and you say, hey, text here for all interior photos and price, they're going to do that. And what we found out was you can't fake that phone number because they send a text. It's the best piece of contact info you can get. And if you have a handful of listings, you should be getting a ton of quickly leads. If you're not, your sign isn't big enough, they aren't being placed in the right spot, or you put flyers out there. Because all across the nation, agents are getting hundreds of leads per month for free based on how much listing inventory they have. And Bob, you taught us to use this for things like open houses and events and other stuff like that, right?
Yeah. I mean, really, anywhere, you're marketing anywhere could have multiple calls to action on it, right? So your phone number and a text, because like Ben said earlier, we want to let consumers communicate with us in the way they want to communicate. And so literally any piece of your marketing right now, you could look at anything you do and it could potentially be enhanced like they do here. They allow somebody to text BK open to 59559 for a list of all the open houses, right? So that's actually a call to action, because before it was like, the open house is that way, call us if you get lost. Well, guess what? People don't get lost anymore on the way to open houses. We all have this guy, right, and a map. But if they wanted a list of all the open houses, they can get that. And that might not even be somebody that was headed to Ben's open house. So they're going to have 20 of these signs out anytime they have an open house with a call to action on it for somebody to get a list. And all they do is just fire back a link to their website with the list of all the open houses.
Yeah, it brings in the leads. And then when you get these leads that come in, Bob, what's our process?
We're going to attempt contact. I mean, you know, some people call these leads right away, and I think that's Ben's. I tend to think, and you can take this for what it's worth, I tend to think that they texted us. They could have called off of our sign, right? Our phone number's still on our sign, but since they did text, that attempted contact is generally a text first. An offer to tour the home. What my mom does on her team for her quickly lead, she's got a little auto plan set up. It's a 3-step auto plan that kicks off a series of 3 texts in about the first 14 or 15 minutes. So about 2 minutes after the lead comes in, she sends a text that automatically, it comes in, it goes into the CRM, auto plan kicks off, sends text that says, did you guys get all the information that you were interested, that you needed for that home you texted about? Question mark. About 3 to 4 minutes later, they send another one that says, you know, did you guys want to schedule a tour of the inside of that house? And then about 7 or 8 minutes later, they'll send a different one, and they've massaged this last message. Sometimes they'll say, hey, I hope I have the right number, even though obviously we have the right number. We captured it via text, but it's just to get them to respond. Sometimes they'll do one of Ben's scripts, right? Hey, I was just thinking, would you guys like a list of some of the best priced properties similar to that one you texted about? Question mark, right? If they respond to any of these, stops the rest of the plan, but the point is to get them to respond. And she might be at a listing appointment. She might be out with buyers and sellers. She might be doing some work with some of the agents on her team, but that thing kicks off automatically, and it basically does number 2 for her, right? And it sends a series of kind of smart, they're designed to get them to respond, right?
Yeah.
Now, at some point, we're going to get back and we're going to research that number. We're going to look it up. Can we find some information, go on people or wherever, right? Can we find a name for that person, potentially an address, an email address, right? We're going to get that info in the CRM. Then we're going to reattempt contact. So what my mom's team does is that little short plan will move them into a different status, and then they go check that status and they kind of determine what's our next follow-up. So generally that next follow-up's the next day. They might apply that. You know, they're never leaving a lead without applying a task, right? So that task is going to be a follow-up the next day, where they'll generally call on day 2 after those 3 text attempts on day 1.
And well, you know, what we found is because it's such good contact information, roughly 1 out of every 11 quickly leads should turn into a closing. 1 out of every 11. If you aren't getting that, I bet you they're only calling those leads once. They aren't calling fast enough. They aren't texting them. They aren't following up with them. As my coach would say, there's diamonds in your own backyard. There's diamonds in your own backyards. And open houses. Explain how this works, Bob.
So every time you go and host an open house, what you can do is on your website, you can go find that listing. Okay. Once you find that listing, you just go to the end of the URL and you put /open house. What that does is it allows you to create a landing page. So I'll use my mom as an example because I know her story intimately well. She's an expansion partner with Ben Kinney. They've got their team. So what they'll do is they get iPads. I think a couple people on the team maybe use like an Amazon Fire or one of the Amazon, what are those things? Tablets, right? And then they'll put a stand. They buy these stands for $35, I think, on Amazon. They put the iPad in the stand. They bring up the open house registration page. And every time somebody walks into their open house, they deliver this script first, right? Ben probably does it a little bit better than me, but it's essentially, hey, thanks for coming into our open house today. I'm Gail with Keller Williams. Listen, people come to our open house for 1 of 2 reasons. And Ben delivered this script earlier, right? 1 of 2 reasons. They're a seller and they're out kind of investigating the competition, or they're a buyer and they're looking for that next listing. Which one, or their next home? Which one are you, right? Not, hey, what brings you in today, which is always just looking. Right? Are you a buyer or are you a seller? Once they identify that, they say, hey, listen, the sellers asked that we have everybody check in. So if you wouldn't mind registering here on the iPad before we tour you through the home. And they get their information. So when that person registers, fires them into the CRM, they've got an auto plan set up that has a little text cadence that kicks off like an hour and a half or 2 hours later. They want to give them some time to get out, get free of the open house, and then they send those automated follow-up text messages. And they do the same thing, a series of 3, including one of them saying, hey, I hope I don't have the wrong number. You did stop by our open house today, right? But when they fill this out, they're going to fire them into the CRM. They can even set up a listing alert. A listing alert is kind of by default set up to be sent out automatically to those people. So if in this particular example on the screen, that person was at an open house in San Marcos, Texas. So what it will do is it will set up a listing alert for properties in San Marcos within 10% of the list price of that property, or based on the price range that they put in the form itself. And so now you've got a lead in your CRM, you've got an auto plan that kicked off with a series of texts to try to get them to engage with you after a couple hours later, and you've got a listing alert set up automatically headed off on this person. Like at this point, if you just did that stuff, I bet you're going to be further along than most of you guys are today, because you're taking open house leads on a paper sign-in form, or maybe if you're good, you're doing them on some kind, but they're not getting into the CRM. They're not getting listing alerts set up automatically. You know, they don't have these text campaigns geared to get them to engage with us an hour and a half later.
So Bob's absolutely right. And we've done this for years, and agents did open houses, or they said they were doing open houses, but they weren't ever adding anybody to the CRM. And to me, that means they weren't really doing it, or they were just being lazy and they put one frickin' sign out, right? What you want to do is you want to turn open houses into a major piece of your business, and you want to track your agents based on how many new leads did they enter from open houses. And if you allow them to just do it themselves from the paper sheet, you're going to miss out, and it's going to cause a lot of work for those agents. If they do /open house at the end of a listing, they'll create this page right here. Once they register, as Bob said, they get put in your CRM. It gets tagged with the address, so you can show the seller how many people came. It gets listing alerts automatically applied, sources tagged open house, plans can start. Like, it just takes all the work away. And if you guys want to make more money, the only way to do that is to find ways to get more of your time back. Think about that. We can't give you more hours in the day, but we can allow you to be more efficient and more effective. And here's some tips that we use for getting open houses and converting them. Market them everywhere. Put 20 open house signs out. Take over your town is what I mean by that. Is you put signs everywhere. You put balloons. You just knock it out of the park. Turn them into an event. When you're reaching out to your sphere and trying to convert a sphere into something, call them and say, hey, we're doing a coat drive right now this fall, and we're giving coats to children who need new jackets, and we're going to be collecting them at these open houses this weekend, or at our office, or I can swing by if you can't make it. So when you are actually inviting people to the open house, you're giving them a purpose and a reason to go there, so you can really connect with your sphere. And as Bob said, use the open house script. People come into our open houses for 1 or 2 reasons. 1, they're thinking about selling and curious what their home is worth, or 2, they're thinking about buying. Leverage the would sell list. Take all of your address only leads and Brivity and all the old cancel expireds and building permits and all that stuff, put it into a binder. And when somebody comes in and you say, hey, have you been looking for a home for a while? And they say, yeah, we've made some offers, but we got outbid or whatever. You could say, hey, we have this thing called the would sell list. This is a group of people that would sell in the event that there was a motivated buyer. And the cool thing with this is there'd be no other competition. So if you wanted to sit down and talk about what you needed in a home, we could go figure out a way to find you a property where your offer can get accepted. And it's something unique that really few other agents in the world do.
Hey, Ben, I already have an agent though. Can I still get your would sell list?
No, but you should go back to your agent and ask them for his would sell list and his list of people that have raised their hand that would sell, right?
Yeah.
And call me if you have any questions. Great. So we're looking for buyers and sellers. We gave you the script for that, and the auto plans make sure that those leads get followed up with. Now, Sphere, what you got to do is you got to make sure that every agent, when they join your team, day 1, they input the Sphere into the CRM, because if they don't, they're going to have no tools to work those Sphere, and they should be going in there automatically and organizing those people and tagging them, and then setting up market reports for everybody and setting up listing alerts and getting ready to start working your Sphere. And we believe that it should be a combination of emails, mail, like physical mail, calls, visits, events, social media. And we came up with a Sphere and Gear plan that we have agents automatically apply to their Sphere, which is call every month, send a minimum of 2 emails a month, which those could easily just be market reports, mail them something every month, usually an invite to something or a handwritten note, and then do some events and then touch them on social media once a month. So when you add all those up, depending on are they an A plus, an A, a B, or a C, well, we put these people into a follow-up plan to ensure that our agents do these activities, and it adds up to roughly about 63 touches in a year. In a year. Now, here's an example of what a market report looks like. Don't make market reports too narrow because it won't have data. So you not make it go out a mile or 5 miles or 10 miles, depending on if you're rural or in the city, because you want to send them properties and data so they raise their hand and they say, hey, if Bob's house would sell for 400,000, I would sell mine for 400,000, right? And it's going to get them to raise their hand. And we found by just helping you guys get market reports set up on all your past clients, those past clients start raising their hand and asking you to come list their home because we aren't doing anything else to them. Super important. Auto plans can help that for you. And prospecting, we're working with circle prospecting, cancel expireds, FSBOs, vacant homes, homes in default, just sold, just listed, home valuation requests. These are the different types of places you can get business from just cold calling. What I love about these is if you don't have a ton of money, you can still make those phone calls, and you can still work those types of leads because it doesn't cost much. We believe strongly that you should never put list in your database. That'd be like canceled expires or circle prospecting. That's junk. Only put leads and nurtures in your database and save your list for the dialers. You don't want to just wake up one day and have 30,000 people in your CRM, none of which you guys have ever talked to, and you only have one form of contact information. It just messes up your house. So make sure you don't do that. The only people you put in your CRM from prospecting are the nurtures. The people said, yeah, I would meet with you at some point. More examples of how the market reports works, and you could tell that I'm driving home this auto. What else? Anything on there, Bob?
I mean, there's a million questions. I don't know where to start.
Tyler said he loved the I love emailing you, you hate responding script. Yeah, give that a try, Tyler. Do that on text too. I love texting you, you hate responding to me. Right.
Where's a good place to find sample follow-up plans? So we've got some sample auto plans built out. Like if you have the Brivity platform and you go into the auto plans, you can get in there and look at some of the sample ones we've set up. Here's what I would say about that. Make it your own. Like go in and actually look at them, because they're based on what Ben's team does, and they're very aggressive. And so, they might have 15 tasks inside of a given plan. And if everybody on your team's not bought into the idea of, hey, we're going to do these 15 things every time a lead comes in, and it's your responsibility to get into the CRM and actually perform and check these things off, what's going to happen is you're going to wake up a month from now or 2 months from now, and your agent's going to have 1,500 overdue tasks, and they're going to feel paralyzed. So go in and look at, we do have some example plans in there. You can easily copy our plan and then make tweaks to it, maybe delete certain tasks that you guys just know you're not going to do, or, tweak the formatting on the text messages and that sort of thing.
A couple CRM only customers are asking why don't they get the auto plans? And the reason is because text is part of it, and we get charged for every single text and every single phone call that goes through there and every single number that's applied. And CRM is so cheap that it actually causes us to lose money on that. So we made the SMS texting part of the platform. CRM only does not get the SMS. That's why. A bunch of people are asking about like KW Command. We got an agreement to integrate with KW Command and use the best of what we do and the best of what they do. And I think that'll be great in the future as it all gets rolled out. Right now, we do a lot of stuff, and we do more than I think any other competitor out there, and we're going to continue to be ahead of the curve. That's our plan.
Jeff says, why would you change the status of the lead before you attempt to make contact? I think, Jeff, here's what you would do. It's a new lead when it first comes in. I mean, like you could attempt to make the phone call or whatever first or second after you change status. It doesn't matter. Like the idea of changing the status from new to unqualified basically is an indicator on the Ben Kinney team that I've started working this thing, right? So I've made the call. I move it to unqualified because I've started working it. Now I'm going to move it to watch or nurture or hot or inactive, based on the outcome of that call, or I might just leave them in unqualified, assuming I've got that reminder set up. So it's not the idea there is the movement out of new is an indication the agent is working it. Hope that makes sense, because if they don't work it 24 hours later, the lead manager is going to come back in there and they're going to say it's still new, which means you're not working it, which means I'm going to give it to somebody else. You must be too busy.
Good one.
Are Ben scripts in the system? Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff in the help area. There's a bunch of videos like these. There's a bunch of shorter videos that are, I don't know, between 5 and maybe 12 minutes with Ben and I doing a bunch of his scripts and a bunch of the dialogues for different things, IDX website leads, valuation leads, quickly leads. So they're definitely in the CRM, and you can find them by clicking on the little question mark and then looking for the Bob and Ben webinar series kind of header inside of that question mark. Sheila says, just reiterating, there's no software for lazy. That is a fact.
That's funny. Greg says, how long will it take to get this system completely set up and running at a high level? The system does probably 100 times more than the average agent actually uses. And it's like the gym membership, there's a ton of equipment. So I don't know how long it'll take your specific team, but divide and conquer. First, make sure every past client is on a market report. Then make sure all your buyer leads are on list and alerts. Then make sure you get all your transactions in there and start creating your admin task plans, and then start working on your auto plans. If you need help with that, we have a white glove service that'll set up list and alerts and market reports for you guys. Just call into Brivity and ask about the white glove service if you don't want to do that yourself, or you can hire some VAs to do it. That'll help. But I think it takes anybody 30 to 60 days to get everything implemented at a high level if they invest a little bit of time every single day. And you can bang it out much faster if you just kind of stop and say, today and tomorrow, we're going to get this done. Yes, there are some promotion codes for persuaded tickets. It's 15% off till I think the end of the day tomorrow. Unless you're a Brivity Platform customer, it's 25% off. I think that's the bulk of the questions. Reach out to us, send a text, anything like that, and we'll always respond to you guys. Thanks for being on the call today. Bob, thanks for joining me.
Appreciate it. If you guys have questions we didn't get answered or something, you can always go in the Brivity Masterminds group and put those in there. I'll make sure that I'm like paying real close attention to that group the rest of the day and try to make sure we get everybody's question answered. You know, there was almost 1,000 people on this call with us, so the questions are like just raining in. So we obviously didn't get a chance to answer everybody's, but we'll do our best to do that in the Masterminds group the rest of the day. Thanks, Ben. I appreciate it, man. This was great. We're gonna do another one of these soon?
Yeah, we'll do another one when I get back from the great northern Canada next week. So we'll get something on the books.
You going up ice fishing, or what are you doing up there?
Basically, I'm chasing animals around. So probably 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. See you guys on the next call. Appreciate it.
Bye, everybody.